Hello, this is T.R. Nichols with 5 Minutes for Men. The next episode on this channel is going to be about property ownership, and I have two young men on this episode who I am very thankful for having in my life. I've watched them win and lose throughout life, and definitely do more winning than losing, and go through the trials and tribulations of life and come out the other side as great fathers and great men. So I definitely want to thank you, Steph, and thank you, Sterling, for providing me the opportunity to even interview you and to ask you some questions about your property ownership. And with that being said, we can get right to the video. Hello, I'm T.R. Nichols with 5 Minutes for Men. Today is a very special occasion. We have two young men here today to talk about their property buying experience. So first what we'll do is let them introduce themselves, and maybe they'll say a little bit about maybe how they know me, and then we'll get right into asking them some questions about their property ownership. So gentlemen, introduce yourself.
Hello, Sterling. No Tavares since college, ran track together, SIBO for life.
My name is Stefan. I'm a protege of Mr. Nichols. He's my brother's best friend, so we're gonna rock it like that.
All right. So, why did you buy a home in the first place? Like, because obviously both of you were renting before you bought a home, right? So what made you buy a home?
Me personally, I've been reading up on it. Reading about the potential to even just borrow against your house, whatever the case may be, for a better house. But also just watching a lot of, videos and watching where people have created and passed down their property to their children and stuff like that, which is something that I didn't come from. So that's probably the biggest part of it, was actually having a kid and then saying, okay, what am I going to do for this child?
Okay, that's deep.
I mean, for mine's a little different. I kind of came up always wanting to buy a house because it was kind of the expectation within the family, because every aunt, uncle, from what I known growing up, they all owned a house. I rarely visited anybody who lived in an apartment. At least by the time I came along, who lived in an apartment. Everybody,
because you're the baby.
Everybody had their own house. It was like, okay, you get grown, you buy a house.
Right.
And then as I gotten older, it was like, you really see the benefits of owning a house, of having your own stuff. Like as Steph said, the equity, being able to borrow against it, and then just being able to pass it down to your kids.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, similar case, or a case with my mom's house now, she passed, and we own the house now, and my brother's living there now.
Well, and it's nothing like that. It's nothing like that.
You got somewhere to go to.
So how did you go about figuring out where you could afford something and where you want it to be?
Where I wanted to be and where I could afford are two different things.
Sometimes it can be two different things.
Yeah. I mean, I would have loved to been bought a lot closer into the Bay Area, but the market now is kind of very much priced a lot of people out unless you are high into the three figures of salary. But other than that, it's kind of like pushing out, and I always looked at how, like, convenience for me. Like, okay, public transit coming up, I've always been somebody who used public transit, so I didn't never want to be somewhere where I felt like if I had a car, I'm stuck without
track.
I always had the option to be in a BART, bus, train, something to be able to get around.
Okay.
Me, it's almost the same situation, but for me it was more like a convenience, no commute or halfway commute, and cheap to my job. I work in Hayward. The closest place I could possibly live is Oakland.
Okay.
So it was more of a compromise, and where I was familiar with, and the affordability factor. So me personally, I chose Oakland because even though the landscape is rough, I'm used to it.
Right. The environment.
I can live
you're
here.
so used to it,
It's something I'm not used to. I know how to move, but the affordability of Oakland is totally different than the surrounding cities without a commute.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And then you both did two different things. One has the single family,
Yeah.
right, and then you have tenants, right. So that's totally two different avenues of how to go about it. And what made you choose that route over the single family?
Because I was reading the benefits of actually doing the numbers and then saying, okay, I don't really want to afford. Not that I can't afford. I don't really want to pay this whole mortgage by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So with a duplex, people don't know that you can buy a duplex or a multifamily home, 2 to 4 units with a FHA.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know that.
And there's a lot of things that you taught me during the process of you going through that I didn't know. So yeah.
So it was just stuff I was just learning. Like, okay, you'll do better if you do with a duplex, because just say my mortgage is $3,000. Why not have some help paying that $3,000?
Right.
So me paying a $3,000 mortgage and living 45 to an hour away was not going to cut it for me.
Right.
That didn't work for me. So I compromised, while actually it benefits me because I do want, I would like to be a landlord. I would like to have multiple properties. So this was the first step. And even though it was a rough process to get into my unit, it actually it's working out beneficially, because I went the route that I went. It's working out, and the potential of it is just crazy.
Right. And something you had told me that I didn't know, that with doing the duplex, is your down payment. You can do, it was 1%, right?
No,
it was less than whatever the market rate was, if I remember you telling me right.
Well, that all comes into play with the FHA. So a single family home, you need
like 20%.
You still need an FHA.
Yeah.
Or you can use an FHA, but guess what? Since you're putting 3.5% down, your mortgage is going to be higher, right?
Yeah.
Since you have a single family home, your mortgage is going to be higher. So with the reason why I went with a duplex is because I was going to have help paying my mortgage. So, it's easier for me to put down, to justify putting down only 3.5% on a duplex, because right now I'm only paying 2/3 of my mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? With a single family home, you're paying the whole pot.
Yeah.
So for me, it just made sense to go that route. I have a small family. The place needs work, but it's coming along.
Right, and with you have a large family.
Much larger family, so yeah.
One kid and everybody else grown-ups. Yeah.
We had to consider a room for everybody, so we couldn't do a duplex that was a 2-bedroom or at the biggest out here. Somebody told me, it's like, you don't see a lot of 3 bedrooms or even 4 bedrooms out here, just in Oakland or the inner or closer into the Bay Area. So that definitely pushed us out further, just for looking for a house that suit our needs.
Yeah. So how did you go? Because obviously it's a long time ago for me to go through the experience, which is definitely why I wanted to talk to you both about it, because you guys are going through it obviously more recently. How did you go about the loan part? Like, in figuring out who to go with to get the loan. Like, is it like everybody's going to offer you a loan, right? Like, if your credit is good enough, everybody's going to offer you one. How did you figure out who to go with, and what was the deciding factors in picking who you went with to get your loan through?
Ultimately, for me, it was our broker found the loan and was pretty much shopped it around and found the one with the best rate for us. Okay. And we ended up going through, at least right now, it was with Rocket Mortgage. But I know somebody else, again.
They sell them.
Yes.
Yeah. They flip your mortgages like hotcakes. So as soon as you think you then you get a notice, Yeah, it's been sold to so and so, especially out here.
Bank of A or B of A is now your
Yeah, that's
mortgage.
exactly what happened to me.
Oh, so yours got sold and flipped
It got
already?
sold ASAP to a bank in Ohio.
Oh wow.
Yeah, out of Cincinnati. And I was reading their profile. That's all they do is buy and sell mortgages.
Mm.
Yeah.
So how did you go about?
I just
Picking
winged
yours.
it, man. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I put a lot of trust in people. So usually I put trust in people who I know did good business with someone else.
Okay.
So I'm like, if he
Right,
didn't
right.
screw him over, he didn't screw me over.
Right.
So my brother, when he bought his house in Oakley, he kind of put me onto this guy and a real estate agent. And when I went through him, I called him. We kind of kept in contact. 2017, when everybody was looking for houses, when everybody was just buying cash money,
Mm-hmm.
I was looking then. So I was looking in 2017. So I was
Wow.
looking when the housing market was even lower than what it, or I ain't gonna say lower, but it was, it was still going up, but it was cheaper than what it was when I actually was able to buy in 2021. But in 2017, I put in about 3 different offers with, with this guy, and it didn't work out. So fast forward to 2021, I said, "Hey man, I'm ready." He put me in contact with his guy,
Okay.
with his lender friend, and they got me a great deal. A low rate. They got me credits back, so I actually didn't pay no money down on closing. It all came from the credits.
Nice.
So I saved a lot of money with the route that I actually went. Even though I winged it, it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so many levels of this game. And earlier, me and Sterling were just talking about how many signatures and how many things you sign at the end of that process, right? So there's so many layers to that, and for all we know, we done signed away kidneys and kids,
Man,
and not realizing, because you get to a certain point at the end where you just like,
Yeah.
and moving through. What about ownership for you right now? Would you say is the biggest component of ownership for you? Because you're like, for both of you, like, it's different scenarios, right? Because he is beholden in a way to the person who he's a landlord for, as well as trying to implement and want your own thing to be nice. But you're like, well, I might not be able to make it too nice, because if she might see it, she'd be like, you know. So, what's your favorite part of ownership right now?
Ownership.
You just having it.
Just having
Yeah.
a piece of property.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing better. I don't live in an HOA, so I can do whatever I want to do to the property. The flip side of that is ownership. It's expensive, especially when you're a landlord tenant. So I've had a lot of heavy costs up front, but it's slowly starting to plateau down and go back down to where it should be, regular costs and stuff like that. So it's ownership on both sides, the extreme being proud of myself and the extreme cost of ownership. Yeah.
What about you, Star?
I mean, same thing, just outright ownership, just being able to come out like, this is mine. If I want to sit here and knock a hole in something, I can knock a hole in it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just looking around is like, this is like just knowing stuff that is going to need to get taken care of at some point, and I can't call
the landlord.
like,
Yeah.
"Hey, the water heater's out,
Yeah.
and we need you out here in a couple of days." And so it's just one of those leads for me. It's like, okay, just being aware of it, but already living in the house is stuff that I was already aware of. It's like, okay, this is stuff, but then it's just knowing to, let me start putting a little bit of money aside for that
Whatever.
bomb that hits, and it's like, oh, we got to come out and fix this one. Like right now, I gotta every day I come out, I got a sprinkler head that's leaking.
And that was gonna be the next thing I asked.
That
both
I'm
of you
looking at, and I was like,
about repairs. Yeah. Because I see my house as another child, because whether it's every summer, it needs something. Like, and I can come outside and look at stuff and be like, eventually I gotta do something about this. Or I'm walking through the house, eventually I gotta do something about this. I mean, even the garage that we're in now, it didn't look like this, and now it looks like this, but that's because it was so messed up. So what are you looking at in terms of repairs, or what you think you might work on next? What's your next project you probably have to work on in the house? Obviously your sprinkler head.
Yeah, sprinkler head, and then just little landscaping stuff. Just because I know we got trees and stuff and outside, and I'm sitting there looking at how close they are. So I was like, I want to trim that one back, trim that back, just tidy that up. Okay, do I actually want to keep this around? And then we got a gazebo in the back. And I mean, it's in pretty good shape, but I mean, you can sit there, come even a couple of years down the road, probably have that redone, or at least to have the roof of it redone. Yeah. And then other stuff that we looking at is the fence going around. I mean, they've been there for at least years, and you can see where you kind of touch it a little too hard and you're going through the fence. It's staring in your neighbor's yard.
Yeah, my neighbor asked me about, he asked Portia about the gate, or this wood fence over here, because in the back, a couple of the, and I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm going to get to it. Like, you just can't be like the Parkers. We have a metal gate. Cool. Like, but that's just part of the game. What about you?
Same exact thing. When I came in, and that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why I got such a cool deal. The place still needs some work.
Yeah.
So, my back fence is shoddy. I was talking to my neighbor on the backside, and he was like, "Man, we can work on something to fix the fence and extend it so that he has, a little bit more privacy, and I have my privacy." So, I mean, that's minor though compared to, the drains that I've had to change out, like thousands of dollars in work that was hitting me while I wasn't even living in the place. So, when you get to these old properties in Oakland and anywhere else or wherever, they're always going to need work up front. And like I said, I'm finally able to, now I can piece the work out. They're not major.
And you in there.
And I'm in there. And I can decide what needs to be fixed right now and what is not that bad of you want to be a slumlord, but still though, you can't just tap my pockets like that. Yeah. So there's a balance.
And she can see you coming home.
Exactly.
When you come home, you too happy. Like, y'all went on a family trip?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's up. Oh, you got money. Like, it's different, bro.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah, our house, it was pretty much the owner before it had just finished remodeling it, so there's a lot of work that doesn't need to be redone on it. Yeah. But there's still like something else that needs to get done on it, or probably cleaned before it becomes a problem, is the gutters. Because some of them, while it was raining, sitting there spilling over. I'm like, probably should not quite draining right. So,
because how high up is the roof?
It's a 2-story, so like
you up there.
Yeah,
like 20, almost 30.
You might have to get somebody to do that. I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, and that's my other thing now, is like kind of balance between stuff that I can do myself and stuff that, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and pay somebody to do.
Yeah.
And then you have like, and again,
risking your life and limb.
Right, to be cheap.
Yeah, just to be cheap.
I did it. Like,
But then you also consider like stuff that you can do yourself, but then are you gonna have time to do it?
Right, and then you coming home from work because your commute right now, right? So you coming home from work, you don't want to do that. You have to do that on a weekend, which means you got to get up early.
Yeah.
And where you at, it be cooking. Yeah. So it's a lot.
Are
to
you really
take into
gonna?
account.
Yeah. Are you really gonna?
And how long are you gonna push that line to try to do it, and then you don't actually have the skills to do it? Yeah. So that's what happened to me. Was I got to the point where I couldn't. Some of that stuff, I was
just knew.
I ain't no plumber.
Yeah. Like I got some drain on.
Yeah. I can't get this. This is not lining up properly for me. You know what I'm saying? So I had to start paying somebody, but it was worth getting it done right the first time. Than to be struggling, sweating, and
nerve shot.
Yeah, I'm shot. I gotta come. Hey, I'll be back tomorrow to fix this.
Get on the roof, bro.
Oh yeah,
it's
roof is
nerve wracking. And I can fall off mine probably and survive, but you fall off yours, you probably won't. So like it's a lot, bro. It's a lot going on, man.
Yeah.
What was the level that you would say of discipline you feel like you needed, or what changes should I say that you feel like you had to make to stack the bread for the down payment? I know your scenario is a little different, but even holding on to the bread to make sure you got enough for everything? Like, what was the discipline level like? What changes did you have to make to be able to do that?
You got to set something aside. You got to pay yourself.
Yeah.
That's the only way to properly do it is to pay yourself and make sure that whatever you taking out, whatever it is, you are putting it to the side and you don't touch it. That's the only way to really stack your, get your down payment, whether it's going to be 3.5% or 20%. You got to put the money to the side. You got to pay yourself and know that money is for whatever.
Borderline, treat yourself like the government. Like, hey,
yeah, you got to tax
like
yourself.
tax. As soon as paycheck comes before rent or right after rent is paid, boom, move this money to the side and then start paying everything else, all the rest of your bills. But then, like, you know what? This is here, and then have it in a whole other account that you can't even transfer out of easily.
Yeah, they're gonna give you the blues or ticket.
Yeah,
like,
especially like if you're undisciplined and like I said, and you are wanting to kind of dip into it versus, like I said, I got some inheritance money and it was just sitting. I was sitting there looking at it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't itching on me to try to spend it. It was like, okay, it was just nice knowing it was there, and it was definitely a comfort in knowing it's there. So like, if something did hit,
you was ready.
Go ahead, take care of it.
Now, it's the follow up to that though. There's a double-edged thing, right? About you've stacked all this bread, you've enjoyed looking at this bread, and then when it's time to get that bread up, what is that feeling like? Because people don't like. There's parts of this game where you've done all your homework, you're ready, you got your loan. They were like, okay, now we need the down payment. And you like
making that wire transfer.
Right, I just spent all this time building this thing up. I really enjoyed looking at it.
Yeah. And
then you're like, yeah, give it. And you're like, ooh.
Yeah. It wasn't hard, but it was like, this number about to go down.
Yeah.
Like, this number about to go down.
It's going to be different.
It's about to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't have that whole thing to it. But knowing that it's putting me in a better position for the future, it's like leverage. It's just leverage. You know what I'm saying? It's leverage. You leverage part of your savings for a better lifestyle.
Just knowing like, okay, this is what convincing you or reminding yourself, this is what I was working for. This is what I was putting in towards, and just doing the pretty much probably your time when you did you have to do a check or was you gonna do a wire transfer?
I might have did a wire transfer.
Yeah. For us, it was like pretty much.
I might have wrote a check, bro. That's the crazy part. I might have wrote a check. And
yeah,
that might have been one of the last checks I probably wrote too.
Because I'm quite sure writing that out as a check is probably it's a little different.
Yeah.
Versus all right, wire transfer.
And it's
the banker just does it, and here's your receipt. Okay.
And it don't usually happen like right away on it. Like it take a couple days for it to go through, so you can still kind of peek like, and then you look and it's gone.
Yeah.
All right. So, in terms of, you kind of gave a little bit of this already about why you chose the property that you chose, but for both of you, because you said you made a couple of offers a couple of years back, but for this property that you bought this time, in this round of it, was it the first one you put a bid in on that you got, or was it like a couple of?
So this property was crazy because it was during COVID.
Okay.
So during COVID, nobody wanted anybody inside the house. Or the tenants didn't want anybody inside their places. So a lot of places weren't getting sold because the tenants didn't want anybody inside the house.
Right.
So my my real estate agent, he spoke with the seller's agent, and they came to an agreement that I had to put in an offer
to get in,
just to look at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they ran the numbers. My agent and the lender, they ran the numbers and basically said, "This is a good deal." Put the offer in with the stipulations that if it fails, whatever,
inspection or whatever,
that the situation would go away or whatever. Cool, did it, went away with it, went through with it. It passed. It didn't pass with flying colors, but it passed. But the situation ended up working out. We did a walkthrough, both units. The seller was there. He kind of told me you know, some of the things that he had worked on and stuff that he had to keep doing in order to maintain the property. He didn't maintain, you know, Oakland is a mess because I hate to go into this. Oakland is a mess because since there's so much below market rent here, the landlords do bare minimum.
Right.
So
because otherwise you just give away your own money.
You give away your own money to make some people who are not paying not even market rate rent, which is what long story. It's a long story.
Yeah. And we talked about it.
Yeah.
And so Oakland, the city of Oakland did you a certain kind of way too.
Yeah, the city of Oakland did not do me any favors. They didn't do a lot of landlords in Oakland. They were done wrong by the city of Oakland, and they're actually still being done wrong.
You just happened to work something out with
I just so happened to have good tenants. I had good tenants, both sides actually, but we worked something out. I was able to get into my property, and you know, today we're here.
Damn. You just got the question about finding the right property, and was this the first offer you put in? Was that because me and you talked a little bit about? You saw a couple of ones like maybe we can wait and see, but sometimes there's other pressures going on. Like we need to make this move.
So this one was our. It was actually our first offer. Actually, no, second one, because we seen something in Sassoon, but and then when we went to go put in the offer, they wanted something different. It was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. And we had kind of pretty much like, all right, just kind of keep looking. And when we found this one, again, this was we kind of pretty much lucked up into it because it had been on the market for so long because the renovations took way longer than the original owner had expected. So we came in, gave our offer. I mean, pretty much did a neighborhood market comps. Mm-hmm. Looked around and said, all right, came in with this. They countered, was like, all right, let's roll with it.
Wow, that's nice.
And yeah, pretty much it was signing papers from there and just waiting, and then going for pretty much the pre-approval, all the whole process and everything from there.
Okay, yeah, that's not bad at all. What about, because you guys at two different times of your purchase, so what are your feelings about the current interest rates right now? Because you just got into yours, right?
Yeah.
More recently than him, but he bought his at a certain time where the interest rates were not as bad as they are now. What are your thoughts on the interest rates right now?
I'm glad I caught it when I did because this is ridiculous. You know, between 6 and 7 right now. I caught mine at 2.5. So I have no complaints about that. That was the thing, is like I kind of got buttered into the property. Rates were low. Right. You know, the number was decent. I saw the potential. I was on Zillow and it called my name. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't know I was signing up for at the time.
Right. And that's you don't know.
You never know
until you really get in there.
Yeah.
And you start to really, the one thing I'll say, then we'll get back so you could say some two-star on this. Even when you get the inspection, right? And the inspection, you're like, okay, well, dude, it went up under. And I can go find my inspection book right now, look through it and go, dude is right. Like, these are the things I definitely needed to work on. These are things that I have worked on. But the inspection is like, okay, you kind of look like, then you living in the house is the real inspection. You he didn't see that, huh?
But that's another thing. So with he went up under the house, you know, crawl space and the whole nine, and it was like, the house probably shouldn't have passed FHA. like I'm dude, like as much the money that I put into under the house, I'm like, dude, how you didn't? I'm like, did it get worse over the time period?
Well, you know what? Because you bought it, and then it took you a while to get in.
It took me a while to get in. Yeah. But it was happening when I wasn't there. Yeah. So you gotta think, it was 2 years. It immediately needed work, you know, under the house. Within of me closing probably a year.
Oh, okay.
It already needed drains from the on one side. $4,500 worth of work.
Ooh. Off top.
Off top. Like, dude, this is bad. This is a bad problem. So it wasn't there just the year before, or it wasn't
That's prevalent.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't as big. He might have looked at it.
He might have looked at it. He said it was.
It's dark under there.
It's dark under there. And
Look, I don't want to say what I really want to say. I can't say what I really want to say.
I mean, time of year can be everything. Because like for drains,
Winter, yeah.
if you come during the summer, you ain't
It
gonna
looks
catch
great.
nothing. Yeah,
It looks great.
But if you come out there during the winter, during storm season like this year,
Which is
you
we've never seen
you
anything
gonna
like this before.
Yeah, you're gonna see like, oh wait a minute.
Yeah. It was.
So yeah, interest rate wise, we kind of caught it on. It was when we was in our closing process. It was kind of fluctuating, but it was kind of creeping up, and then it would kind of drop down. But we ended up catching it at 5.5.
Oh, that's not bad.
And then I think probably like a couple weeks later, it kind of popped up to 6, and then kind of been doing its thing ever since then. But yeah, we kind of caught it at a pretty much a right time where it was kind of steadily on the climb, but it was still fluctuating. So it was kind of holding off, waiting. It's like, hey, when do you want to? Our lender was like, when do you want to lock it in? Right now, it's this. Looked like, and he pretty much was telling us like, hey, it's trending this way, but it's been doing this, and letting us know.
And it's a lot of trust we got to put into them because they seemingly know what they're doing. So you got to hope you got one that does know what they're doing. So we'll wrap it up with the final question of, is there anything that you would have done differently in the process? And what would you tell the people as far as them doing and going through the same process you went through to get yours?
Never, unless you can really afford it, never buy a property that is 100% occupied. It's gonna cause you problems. It's gonna cause you problems, and that was a problem that I did not think that it was gonna, I didn't anticipate that big of an issue costing me that much money,
right,
and taking that long
to get them out,
to even get fixed.
Yeah. And they were good tenants. That's the crazy part. What would the scenario be if they weren't, right? So
I would have been in either foreclosure. I would have to put it right back on the market within 6 months, probably.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So during COVID, people didn't have to pay. They made it where people did not have to pay, and people stopped paying. But that mortgage was due.
Still due.
They did allow the forbearances and stuff like that, but I feel like they were harder on the people who owned the property than the people who were renting the property, even though we're all in the same boat because we all got to pay somebody.
Right.
We all have to pay somebody. So, they made it where, in certain counties and stuff like that, they made it to where the renters became homeless basically, and so they got these homeless rights.
Right.
So the landlord didn't get that, and then you had all of these, negative people who really they just want something for free. I feel like, I'm sorry, but they want to just give stuff away, and I was renting and owning at the same time. I saw both sides of the fence, and I didn't realize that I had that much power as a renter.
Right, you could have just stopped paying your rent.
I could have stopped paying my rent to make sure I still had enough money to pay my mortgage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wild.
So bro. I would, if you cannot come to an agreement to get somebody out of a unit, or somebody out of that family home, or if the owner, if he can't come to if you can't get it in writing, notarized, don't do it.
Okay. Especially if you plan on living there.
Especially if you plan on living there.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would have done different is started looking sooner, but just without the realtor, just going to open houses just to kind of get a feel for what to expect when going in, just to look around and see, and then just being able to take knowing not to rush the process, knowing and understanding like, hey, this is going to be a long process. You're paying this hundreds of thousands for this. Take your time. Don't rush it, and don't feel as though you gotta hurry up and just, all right, you done seen something, you done shown some stuff, and then you gotta pick something. Like, no, and then kind of, if you don't see anything in your, like, whatever your preferred area is, sit on it for a while and see what pops up, and then just kind of work it for a while, and then definitely have your time span of, okay, nothing's going to pop up, or this area is being priced out of my area. Now I have to move on
to another area.
Yeah.
And another thing, never use your whole budget.
So because
Do not
those
go-
repairs come, now you don't even have the money to fix it. Right.
Yeah. If you max yourself out, if you get approved for $500,000, if you get approved for $600,000, $700,000, don't buy no $700,000 house. I'm sorry. That's my opinion.
Oh yeah.
You know, you got to keep it within a reasonable number. You know, come down a couple hundred, $100.
Because you don't want to be house poor.
Yeah. Don't buy too much house. Just because you can get approved for it doesn't mean that you can afford it.
Right.
And I would say, yeah, your pre-approvals, seeing how much you can get pre-approved for, and then sometimes what can knock you out of that using your whole budget is that sticker shock of when your lender runs a scenario and say, okay,
Your mortgage is gonna be
this
this.
is what your mortgage is gonna look like, including property tax, insurance, all this other stuff.
And you know what they do? They sell you. The lenders always sell you on. Oh well, if you go up 40,000, it's only gonna cost you this amount over the course of 30 years.
Yeah.
And that's what you start creeping up. You gotta stick to your guns. Say you get 600,000. Hey, I'm not spending no more than 450. I need a 450. 400 to 450 house. I'll be perfectly fine with that. Do not buy too much house just because you got approved for too much house. They will approve anybody. They don't. You know what I'm saying? They just want you to get into the house. They don't care if you keep the house.
Right. And that's the real part of the game is they get their money when you sign.
Regardless.
And then after that, you on your own.
You on your own.
Yeah,
You know.
it's a job, right? They doing their job,
They
so they can
selling
feed their
something.
family. They selling something.
On
and once
commission.
it's sold,
Yes.
you on your own.
Yeah.
They selling something on commission. My mom is in the process. She wants to buy a house bad. She can taste it.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mama,
Cool out.
cool out. The interest rates are too high. You're on a fixed income. You're
Right.
retired on a fixed income. Anybody can get into a house. I'm sorry, anybody can get into a house for the most part. Can you make the mortgage? Is the mortgage gonna take away from your monthly lifestyle?
And that's the same thing with buying a Benz.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yes.
you look at the car, you buy
Yes.
a Tesla. I got this.
Mm-hmm.
Can you keep it?
Can you
keep it?
And that's the key where sometimes you can get lost in because you get so fixated on the mortgage, but then it's your pretty much cost of ownership.
Right.
How much does it cost you to own? Even though
Yeah, PG&E,
yes,
cable,
PG&E,
all of that, water,
your
garbage,
upkeep.
Everything.
Yeah.
And before we close out, one of the things that I picked up from the last owner, he told me this. He said the only thing, since utilities are split, the only thing that he paid there was the garbage, because Waste Management was the only people that can actually put a lien on your house.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
They can put a lien on your house
for not getting your garbage.
for not
picked up.
paying your garbage, because garbage has to be paid. It has to be paid, or they can send it to the county, and they can do this and they can do that.
Buy me a garbage foreclosure somewhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who don't
Pay that garbage
know that.
bill.
A lot of people who
Wow.
don't know that. And just imagine if the tenants were responsible for the garbage. They'd be like, well, I ain't picking it up. I ain't
Right.
paying it no more. Because they're going to keep picking it up regardless, right?
Right, they're gonna pick it up.
They have to
charge
pay it.
you.
And then they're just going to
Yeah.
charge you. And then they're going to say, oh, this property has a mortgage bill.
$30,000
Yeah,
garbage.
worth of garbage.
Wow.
And yeah, so that was one key thing that I did pick up that I do pay fully. You know, even when I wasn't there, I was paying that fully every month. You know, so there are so many things that I've learned. You know, over the course of these 2 years, actually 2 full years now, because I bought it in May of 2021. Some things I would do different, some things that I could ride with, but overall, I'm happy.
Good.
Same here.